Battlefield 6 is a type of game that I normally don't typically play. I like story games, horror games, or Souls-likes because I hate myself. My favorite series include Dark Souls, The Legend of Zelda, and Monster Hunter. First-person shooters? You know, I tend to avoid them because it's just not my preference, not my cup of tea, especially the multiplayer ones. However, I was drafted to war by an anonymous donor who offered to gift me the game in exchange for a video. You know, at first I was a bit apprehensive, but then I thought, there could be a benefit. Number one, it's a free game, I'm not gonna pass that up. But number two, getting out of your comfort zone is sometimes a necessary experience to help you grow, even in the small things. I can potentially learn something from this, so I decided to give it a shot. And as you can see, I have a lot to learn. Now look, it's not that I've never played an FPS before or that I hate them overall. You know, I've played games like Traypong 2, Doom, and Buckshot Roulette. I don't know, does that count? You're shooting someone, I guess. But out of the hundreds of games I've played, first-person shooters are amongst the smallest percentage of my catalog. Not only is this my first Battlefield game, but out of all the Call of Duty games, the most famous FPS series I could think of that I played were Modern Warfare 3, the old version, Black Ops 2 Zombies, I only ever played Zombies, and 1. And I didn't even own them, my friends did. I think my reasoning is that it's more so like a combination of being multiplayer and an FPS shooter. I love the Doom franchise, for example, but it's when I have to actually face against actual players that I get discouraged. I dislike multiplayer games in general because in whichever game you're playing, if you don't plug in the same amount of hours as like a full-time job, you're going to suck at it. There is always somebody better, probably some sweaty version who has a crap bucket next to his chair. I guess I simply don't like the pressure of competition against another living person. Like, I'm just not a competitive guy. I like challenges, but I like it when I'm the only one involved. Such as Elden Ring, for example, because you're facing difficult bosses that you must overcome on your own, and it's so satisfying to see your own growth and progression. No need to rely on a teammate who sucks at the game, or have one mistake cost your team the whole match. But alas, here I am, playing Battlefield 6, perhaps being the weakest link on every team that I've ever joined. So, how was my experience, and what did I learn? First impressions, this game is beautiful. I mean, I love the graphics here. With my earbuds in, it was easy to get immersed dying to the same guy twice in a row. Battlefield 6 immediately challenged my assumption on multiplayer games not being able to deliver this kind of depth or atmosphere. See, the maps play different roles in multiplayer versus a single-player game. In single-player, it's about exploration, discovering new dungeons or new areas entirely. The level design can tell a story behind it all, the world building. Maps in multiplayer, for the most part, are built to be a fair and competitive layout for players to play on. They don't care as much about the details in lore or players' captivation in their level design. They only care about its practicality. That's not to say they aren't beautifully designed on their own sometimes. I think Marvel Rivals has some gorgeous maps. But compared to the single-player games I've played like Monster Hunter World, The Ancient Forest, it is a night and day comparison in my personal opinion. Battlefield 6, however, manages to make fair and balanced maps for competitive play, with amazing details and mechanics that make the immersion arguably better than some single-player games. As a rookie soldier, I did a quick match against some bots just to get an understanding of the flow of the game, and honestly, I did pretty well. If I was playing with my ball sack, I'm not gonna lie to you, you will probably not see any good gameplay throughout this entire video. Especially with aircraft. I cannot control those things to save my life. It feels like I'm immediately blackout drunk when I start to pilot anything that flies. And you know what, I can admit, I suck at this game. And you know what? That's okay. This is the first thing I learned. Sometimes us as people are wired with different or certain skills, gifts even, that others may not have. In the context of gaming, I excel at reactionary games or games that require strategy. I'm great at games with really difficult boss fights, such as First Berserker Kazan. My kryptonite is competitive first-person shooters. It is what I am the worst at. Like, this is the earth bending to my air bending. Like and subscribe if you get that reference. To dumb it down, basically, it takes a lot more effort for me to get as good as the average Joe. Even with my struggles, I found that I didn't need to have that spirit of competition to enjoy the game. With teamwork, the game was still very much enjoyable. Because really, it's not about your own individual strength, it's about your team's overall strength. With that being said, I decided to dive headfirst into my first online match. Conquest is from what I've heard, the bread and butter of Battlefield. A large-scale fight between two teams trying to capture multiple objectives. You have large vehicles in this mode like jets or tanks that can help assist you in winning this war. When I first dropped in, I had no idea what I was doing, but again, I was surprised by how immersed I was into the game. I mean, you have jets flying by, cars speeding past, explosions, and shots around the entire map, and best of all, destructible environments.
Get out! Oh my gosh!
Wait, are you still alive?
Yes!
Did you just crash it through the freaking building?
I didn't know it was gonna do that, bro. I was trying to land.
It's still going!
Oh my gosh, dude.
It was awesome. This game is as cinematic as like a Michael Bay movie. I learned very quickly that this is not a run and gun 'em down shooter. It's not like Doom where I'm the unstoppable force that can rip and tear through everything. Not at all. As soon as I stood outside the cover, death. What I figured out is this game requires, again, teamwork, coordination, and smart tactics to win you the fight. Ironically, the more realistic you play this game, the better your chances are at winning. I was scanning the area, taking it slow, sweeping small corridors, looking for potential blind spots, and getting creative with covering myself from enemy fire. Of course, this didn't work all the time, and sometimes an enemy would pop up as soon as I looked the other way, but the general idea was starting to form. See, my thought process was to play this game by trying to take as little damage as possible. In every other game I've played, not only could you take hits, but you could heal quickly. Here, it's the complete opposite. It only takes a few bullets to put you down, and healing is basically hiding yourself until your health bar goes back up. Regardless, I was starting to get it. I had a feel for the game at this point, and I felt like I was becoming a pro.
That didn't work.
Well, you know what, never mind. I usually play the Assault class because it's the most basic one out of all the classes. He played Support, which in hindsight I think might be the best one for me since my offense was lacking. I did try Engineer for a bit, the ones that take out the tanks and vehicles, but I somehow would miss the giant tank with a rocket launcher. Don't ask me, I don't know how. Recon, I never touched. If I could summarize my first experience with Battlefield 6 in a single sentence, regardless, this is where I was at with Battlefield, after about, I would say, 3.5 hours. I found myself enjoying the game a lot, and really getting into the character of a soldier in the midst of a giant war. I felt so tiny compared to everything that was happening around me, but I knew it could make a difference if I just had a positive KD. So I played more, and I got better and better. Eventually, I was getting more kills than my friend one time, and I was starting to play less aggressive and more resourceful. I would find cover, back up when needed, and shoot with better accuracy. Not by much, but I was getting there. And see, that's the thing too. See, my accuracy in every single shooter game I've ever played is doo-doo dog water. Perhaps it's because I haven't divulged in an FPS in over freaking, I don't know, when did Doom the Dark Ages come out? Because that was the last one I played. But I learned that if you really want to get good at a game like this, you can't just master the combat, you need to master the environments. In Elden Ring or Dark Souls, you're mastering boss patterns or enemy designs, trying to figure out where their weak spot is and when to attack. Here, there is no pattern because it's multiplayer. There's not a strict code to follow. So you have to take advantage of what's stagnant or the same for every single match, which is the map. Once you know how a building is structured and where blind spots usually are, you can anticipate where the enemy will likely be. You figure out the best way to push an objective. Having that knowledge is so crucial in a 1v1 or even with a group of teammates. It didn't take me long to get my bearings straight, and eventually muster up the courage to explore the other modes in multiplayer. King of the Hill is usually shorter and more chaotic than other modes, lots of close quarter combat, explosions, and back and forth momentum. This is more my speed because I like faster combat. I like zooming around corners into the enemy's face and pushing aggressively. Here, the goal of this game mode is to control the central point on a map for as long as possible. From what I've seen, it can be stationary, multiple points, or move around the entire map. Whoever reaches 250 points wins the match. Now what surprised me is that I did not think I would be this good at this mode, at least when compared to my performance in Conquest. I guess my playstyle caters to how close and personal King of the Hill is. I like sniffing after booty cheeks and claiming names with a shotgun. Because it's on a smaller scale, it's easier for me to manage everything that's happening. I mean, I love Conquest, and I won't say anything bad about it, but King of the Hill from a competitive standpoint, I like it more. From an immersive standpoint, Conquest wins. Well, what about the other modes? I have no idea, because I'll be honest, I didn't really feel like trying them out, so yeah, I just kind of bounced between these two. After getting pushed, or more accurately, exploded out of my comfort zone, what did I learn from Battlefield 6? As someone who doesn't play first-person shooters, as someone who hates multiplayer games of the same fashion, what was my takeaway? I think Battlefield 6 is a game that made me appreciate the games I generally play. It's good to have a variety to my collection because when you become so familiar with what you have, you become callous or numb to it. Battlefield 6 was a nice break from the usual, and in the end, I thought was a phenomenal game. I got the best of both worlds, I think, because I got to experience the competitive nature of multiplayer while still having the immersion of a single-player game. Even though I'm not great at these type of games, I still saw improvement, meaning, with time and effort, I could become a solid soldier on the battlefield, pun intended. If you put enough effort into something, I'm talking beyond the gaming stuff here, you can do that. You can develop that skill. What shocked me the most, the fact that I felt almost as immersed compared to a single-player game was impressive in my opinion. Again, the graphics are amazing, and the details to the environment and how they play such a key role in the gameplay loop is incredible. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed this game so much that I'll be playing it even after uploading this video. Now, does it stand as one of my favorite games ever, or even one that I'll revisit after I'm done with it? Probably not. I mean, I still prefer single-player experiences every single day, because there's much more content there that I appreciate that Battlefield doesn't really provide. Think of like the music score, or boss fights, or lore. If you were to ask me what I score Battlefield 6 based on what they were trying to accomplish, I give it a solid 8. I don't know much else about the series, if it's been better or worse, but as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty solid. As far as my personal taste goes, I think Battlefield 6 lands around a 5, right down the middle. They're like not super good, but not like bad. It's not a bad game, let me clarify, but even after all of what I've learned, I'm still going to predominantly play single-player, non-FPS games. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate you guys coming along this journey with me. This was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be because, you know, I don't really like playing these type of games, but you know what? I learned and I conquered, so there you go. I'm down to do it again with a different game if you guys want to give some suggestions, but if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care everyone, and of course, stay safe.